Hi, I'm Jason Duro. I'm an independently published author, and today I'm specifically talking about the best way to publish your paperbacks for the widest distribution and to make the biggest impact possible. The question that I hear the most from other independent authors is how to publish the same book in paperback using the same ISBN number at both KDP and IngramSpark. There's not a lot of clear and specific information online about how to do that, so I thought it would be helpful to make a very direct video telling you specifically how to do that. I've done it several times myself. I have many author friends who've done it many times successfully, so we know that this method that I'm talking about here absolutely works. If you want to skip straight to the how-tos of it, you can use the chapters below in the description to just skip ahead in this video. But first, I wanted to talk a little bit about why you might even want to publish your paperback through both KDP and IngramSpark. If you already know you want to do that, feel free to skip this section and go right to how to do it. Kindle Direct Publishing, or KDP, is Amazon's self-publishing arm, and they make it really easy to get your book in ebook format or paperback, and now they have hardcover on there as well, onto the world's biggest bookstore, which is Amazon, and into the sight line of the most shopping readers in the world. KDP specializes in getting your book onto Amazon, but it also has an option that's called expanded distribution. And as of the time that I'm recording this video, which is March of 2023, expanded distribution at KDP is available specifically for paperback books. They don't have it for hardcover or for ebooks. It's just for paperback, so that's what I'm talking about here. And if you select to do expanded distribution, KDP will make your book available at Amazon, but they also make it available for other bookstores to order throughout the world. Independent bookstores, Barnes & Noble, other places other than Amazon will have access that they can order and carry your book from KDP's distribution. Now, the other big company that most independent authors work with is IngramSpark. IngramSpark is the self-publishing arm of Ingram, which is a huge distribution company that has been distributing books for years and years to all kinds of bookstores. If you see a physical traditional bookstore in the United States, and probably outside the US, I don't know exactly how all that works, but within the US for sure, they more than likely are familiar with Ingram and have been buying their books from Ingram and other places for many years, so they're super familiar with it. And where KDP specializes in distributing specifically to Amazon and then has the option for expanded distribution to go into other bookstores, IngramSpark specializes in doing expanded distribution just by default. They will put your book in all these different bookstores by default, including they can also put it on Amazon in addition to all the other places. With these two different companies both offering expanded distribution into just about any bookstore you could imagine, you might wonder why it would make sense to go with both of them, why you wouldn't just work with one or the other and use that to get your book into all the stores. And that does make sense. It is very simple to just work with one company. It streamlines things and keeps things very easy to just focus on one company instead of distributing things around. And some people do that. Some people will just specifically work with KDP or specifically work with IngramSpark, and they have their own reasons for doing that. I personally see pros and cons with both companies, and the way it kind of lines up and falls together, I feel like the best way to handle paperbacks is to publish through both KDP and IngramSpark in tandem with each other. First, let's talk about KDP's expanded distribution option. Yes, they make it possible for you to opt in to expanded distribution, and when you do that, they make your book available for all these other bookstores to order it from them. And that sounds great, but in practice, most bookstores that are not Amazon don't want to buy from KDP, because KDP is a part of Amazon, and Amazon is every other bookstore's biggest nightmare. That's the giant monster behemoth that has just been eating the bookstore market for however many years they've been around now. And it makes sense that these other bookstores would not want to work with Amazon. They wouldn't want to be feeding the monster. They don't want to order books from their direct competitor and biggest rival and put money directly into Amazon's pocket. So because of that, even though you might opt in to the expanded distribution option from KDP, in practice, most other bookstores don't really like ordering from KDP and don't like going that route. So the expanded distribution option from KDP looks good, but in practice isn't really as great as it looks on paper. So given that, you might wonder why we wouldn't just go with IngramSpark and let them distribute all your paperbacks, including to Amazon, because they can put your books onto Amazon. There are a few reasons. The first is KDP's backend, their dashboard that authors get access to, and their tools and their basic workflow are all very modern and very accessible and easier to use than IngramSpark's tools that they have on their backend. It is easier, in my opinion, to get a book set up and to sell it through KDP than it is through IngramSpark. It's not like IngramSpark's impossible to use. They have guides and they have things set up there, but there are a few more steps on IngramSpark and a few things that aren't as clear as they are on KDP, so IngramSpark tends to be just a little bit harder to work with the interface and not as smooth of a workflow experience. The second thing is that printing costs at KDP tend, in general, and it varies somewhat from book to book, but in general, KDP's printing costs tend to be a little bit lower than IngramSpark's. So on a book-by-book basis, you tend to make more money on each book that you sell that's printed by KDP than you do by IngramSpark. So that's definitely something to consider because that directly impacts your money side of your business. And speaking of money, IngramSpark also charges a fee every time you upload a book into their system, and they charge another fee every time you need to make a revision to that book, which usually authors do occasionally need to make revisions after setting up a book, and that's just part of the nature of the business. And KDP doesn't charge any fees for that. You can upload books, you can go and make changes to them, you can do whatever you want, and you don't have to pay fees to KDP for doing that. So that's definitely something in the plus column for KDP. Now, the fourth thing is something that I have heard, and this could be just an urban legend, I don't know, but it kind of makes sense to me, so take this with a grain of salt. But I have heard that Amazon prioritizes books that are distributed by KDP over other distributors when they are ranking books and sorting books in their search algorithm. So that basically means that if it's true that books that were distributed by KDP will appear in front of more Amazon users than IngramSpark books will if they have competing similarities between books, things like that, that it's more likely that a reader and a shopper will see a KDP book on Amazon than an IngramSpark book. And that might just be like a slight difference there. It may not even be true at all, but it's something that I heard and it makes sense to me because Amazon owns KDP and Amazon obviously wants to make as much money as they can. So it would make sense that they would try to push people towards buying KDP books. So that's something to consider as well. So what's the best option for giving you the best chance at your book getting the proper visibility, showing up in as many stores as possible, giving you as much money as you can make, and causing you the least number of headaches in the long run? In my opinion, that is to publish your paperbacks through both KDP and IngramSpark. And that brings us back to the original question at the beginning of the video. How do we do that? There is a process that can be kind of tricky, and that's what we're going to go through in detail right now. The first thing you want to do is to get your own ISBN, and you can get that in the US, usually through a company called Bowker. Outside the US, I know there are some countries that the government will actually give you an ISBN for free, or maybe there are other places where you can acquire it. I don't know exactly how it works outside the US, but in the US, most people that get their own ISBNs get them from Bowker. That's where I get mine. You can get, in theory, a free ISBN code from Amazon through KDP or from IngramSpark. They will offer those to you for free when you're setting your books up. Do not take one of those numbers. Bring your own number that you've gotten elsewhere from Bowker or wherever else. If you accept one of those free codes from KDP or from IngramSpark, that code is going to lock you into that company. You can't take that same ISBN that you got for free from KDP and also use it at IngramSpark, and vice versa. You can't use one that you got for free from IngramSpark and use it on KDP. You want to bring your own code in and use that same code at both KDP and IngramSpark. After you've gotten your code, the next thing you want to do is set up your book at KDP first. It's important to do KDP first. You go in and you set up your paperback. You'll go through the interface and it'll ask you a bunch of questions. You will put in your book blurb, your price, you'll upload the book contents, you'll upload your cover, you'll put in the categories, all that kind of stuff. During that process, it'll also ask you about the ISBN. It'll ask you if you want to get a free ISBN from KDP or if you have your own ISBN. Make sure you select that you have your own ISBN and put in the code that you brought that we were just talking about. Do not accept the code they give you for free. That's very important. Put in your own code. So you'll put in your code, you'll be setting up your book, you're going through the KDP interface, and you'll eventually get to a page that has you put in the price of your book, what you want to charge readers and buyers who get your book. And there will be an interface, it's like a grid kind of thing, that there's one column that it'll list different regions. It'll list the different Amazon stores, Amazon US, Amazon UK, Amazon Canada, all the different ones. And next to that will be the price for each of those stores, each of those regions. That's all fine. Fill that out, put the price that you want. It'll show what your royalty is going to be, and it'll show all that information in there. Now, there is a column on the right-hand side of that interface that says expanded distribution. It has a checkbox at the top that you can check for expanded distribution, and then below that is where you would put the prices that you would want the book to sell in expanded distribution. Do not check the expanded distribution box at KDP. I can't stress that enough. Do not check the expanded distribution box. If you do check it and you go forward and you publish your paperback there, that's going to create some headaches for you in the future that you can easily avoid now. Do not check the expanded distribution box when you're in the KDP interface. So after you go through and set everything up for your paperback in KDP, you go through the whole interface, get all that done, you can either save your book as a draft or you can go ahead and publish it live. You can put your paperback live and it'll go on to Amazon, start selling. Either one of those is fine to do. You can either just save it as a draft so that it's not yet live, or you can publish it live. Either is fine. After you finish that, then you're going to go to IngramSpark. That takes us to the next part of the process. Once you're at IngramSpark, you're going to go through the whole process again like you did at KDP. You're going to create your book, you're going to set up the pricing, you're going to set up the title, the blurb, all that kind of stuff like you did at KDP. It's a different interface, but it kind of guides you through the same thing. You'll upload the contents, you'll upload the cover and all that stuff. And it'll ask you about the ISBN thing again. Use the same ISBN number that you brought with you, that you got from Bowker or wherever, the same one that you used at KDP for this book. Put that same number in the interface for the paperback at IngramSpark. That's important that you use the same number and put it in at IngramSpark. And then you'll go through, finish the process, and at the end of that, you'll have three choices of things you can do at IngramSpark. You can save the book as a draft, like you could at KDP, and then it won't be published yet, it'll just be saved there. Or you can set it to be published right away and it'll go into distribution, go into bookstores right away after they approve it. Or at IngramSpark, you have a third option. You can set the book's release date to a date in the future. If you do that, it will actually set you up so that you can start taking pre-orders for the paperback. You can't do that at KDP. They don't give you an option at this point, currently at the time I'm recording this video, to do pre-orders on your paperbacks at KDP, but you can through IngramSpark just by setting that future date. So do one of those three things, either save it as a draft, set it live now, or put it up as a pre-order, and you're all good with that at that point. Now, it's important to emphasize here that, like I said, KDP doesn't let you set up pre-orders for your books, but it is possible to have a pre-order for your paperback on KDP by setting it up at IngramSpark, even if you have set up the book at KDP as well. Now, this part sounds a little bit tricky and a little bit convoluted, but trust me, it works. You can have a pre-order for a paperback at KDP by setting up the book on KDP like we talked about, set it to be saved as a draft so it's not live yet. Then on IngramSpark, you set up the book with the same ISBN and you set that to be released at a future date so that it sets up a pre-order from IngramSpark. When you do that, IngramSpark is going to distribute that pre-order to all the places in their system, including to Amazon, because there's not a book live at Amazon yet that has that ISBN number. So the book will show up for pre-order as a paperback on Amazon, and people can start pre-ordering it. Any books that they pre-order through Amazon at that time will be distributed by IngramSpark when the book is actually released. Now, when the release date comes, what you'll want to do is go into Amazon's back end, into the KDP interface, set the book that you have saved as a draft, set that to live. What that will do is it will unseat the IngramSpark version of the book from Amazon. It'll kick that off, and IngramSpark then will be distributing everywhere except Amazon, but they will still have the orders that were placed on pre-order through Amazon to fulfill. And the KDP version of your book then will show up on Amazon, and so after it's released and actually live on the site, then people who order through Amazon will get the KDP printed version and KDP distributed version of your book, and people who order elsewhere will get the IngramSpark version. Now, that is the ultimate goal for what all this is leading to, is that you will have both versions in the world. You'll have the KDP version on Amazon. You'll have the IngramSpark version at Barnes & Noble, at independent bookstores, at everywhere else, and they won't conflict with each other. It won't make a duplicated entry on Amazon. It won't mess things up because you'll have the same ISBN number on both versions of the book. And that is ultimately what we're trying to accomplish with this whole process here. So in summation, there are 3 main keys to making sure that you set everything up so that it works properly. Number 1 is get your own ISBN code. Don't use the ones that are offered for free from KDP or IngramSpark. Get your own code from Bowker or wherever you can get it outside of those 2 companies. Number 2, set up your paperback on KDP first and IngramSpark second. Do not set it up on IngramSpark first or you'll end up wasting your ISBN number. And number 3, when you set it up on KDP, do not opt in to expanded distribution. Just leave that off and you'll be golden. It's really easy to mess up any of those 3 things. Those are the 3 main things that can go wrong. But if you pay attention to those and set it up exactly as I've described in this video, everything should go great. You should have your paperback published by both KDP and IngramSpark, have them both in the market, not conflicting with each other. Everything should go perfectly. Let me know if this video was helpful to you, and I always appreciate a like if you found value here. And as always, make sure to subscribe so you won't miss any of my upcoming videos.